Mr. Chair, you have no volume, just so you know. We can still not hear you. Perhaps you could leave the meeting and then rejoin. That might address the issue. Let's see if it's working now. Just click on the unmute button, please.
Okay, there. How's that?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
I'm back. Okay, good. Just bring my volume up here. Sorry about that, everybody. Live video, you never know what's going to go wrong. Okay, let's get set up here. Okay, sorry for the delay. All right, sorry again for the delay here. Good evening and welcome to our virtual Committee of Adjustment meeting. So on your screen, you'll see members of our Committee of Adjustment. Now, behind the scenes, we have many staff members with us this evening, and even though you won't see them, you will hear them chime in from time to time. Our Secretary Treasurer is Lindsay Stamen, and we also have clerks James Thompson and Elizabeth Fawcett, who are hosting the meeting and running the Zoom platform from behind the scenes. So they are authorized to interrupt the meeting as the need arises, and you'll hear them chime in from time to time. So the agenda and the schedules for the meeting have been posted on Dash on the city's website. So if you don't have those documents and you'd like to follow along, you might want to access them now. So we have 3 agenda items this evening, and I'd like to share with you the format that I'm going to be using for each application. So I'm going to start by introducing the applicant and ask the applicant or their agent or give them an opportunity to add anything further to the application. So if you are the applicant or the agent and you don't have anything further to add, then just simply say so. Next, I'll invite members of the committee to ask questions of either the applicant or staff, and then I'll open the public portion of the meeting. Now, it's at this point, if any member of the public wishes to speak to an application, they just simply have to raise their virtual hand in Zoom, and then they can make their comments or their questions in respect of the application. Now, don't expect an immediate response if you do make a comment during the public portion, because it's during the public portion of the meeting that we record your questions and comments. And it's only after I close the public portion of the meeting will the questions and comments be addressed by the applicant, the agent, or their staff. And then next, I'll invite members of the, I'll ask the applicant or their agent to address the public's comments, after which I'll turn back to the committee to ask them to make a motion and then deliberate on the application. So that's the format I'm going to be using for each application. And that's kind of pretty much how it's going to work in a nutshell. Now, if you have a particular interest in any application and you want to receive written notice of tonight's decision, then please send an email with your name and address to our Secretary Treasurer, Lindsay Stamen. Her email address is lsthamann@cityofkingston.ca. So I'll now call the meeting to order at 5:36 p.m. and I'll ask everybody to turn to the agenda. Now, in approving the agenda, we've had several amendments that have come through today. And so the first amendment that we have was actually technical in nature. It was actually dealing with the to replace and to delete and replace an original report that was technical in nature. But we've been requested to deny the First Amendment because the Second Amendment that we're going to be seeing here is to actually withdraw the application. What happened was on the city's website, the supporting documents were not made public. And so members of the public did not have an opportunity to be able to view those. So as a result, we don't meet the requirements for hearing this. So the second motion, or the Second Amendment, is going to be to withdraw the application. So can I now call on members of the committee to move that the First Amendment, which is technical in nature, be denied? Okay, so moved by Paul and seconded by Blaine. Any discussion on that? So all in favor, raise your hands. And that would be carried. Thank you. All right, so now our Second Amendment is to withdraw the original application, and we just received that shortly before the meeting. So may I have somebody move the acceptance to withdraw the application? So moved by Paul and seconded by Blaine. Any discussion? Okay, so all in favor, raise your hand, and that's carried. And our third and now final motion right now dealing with the agenda is to approve the agenda as amended. So can I have somebody move the agenda be approved? Okay, moved by Blaine and seconded by Paul. Any discussion? So all in favor, raise your hands, and that's unanimously carried. Okay. Thanks for that. Okay, next item is the confirmation of the minutes from October 19th. Now, I wasn't here, but for everybody else that was here, if you've had an opportunity to review it, are there any comments that you want to make at this time, or will just somebody want to move the approval of the minutes? Okay, moved by Blaine and seconded by Paul. Any discussion? None. So all in favor, raise your hands. And that would be unanimously carried by those who were here. Okay, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? No, I'm not seeing any. Okay, so we'll cross that off. There are no delegations, and we do not have any requests for deferral, and there are no returning deferred items at this time. So now we turn to the new business, and of course, the first piece of new business, which was for 230 Frontenac Street, is no longer on the agenda. So we'll move down to number 2B. Okay, so number 2B is for a minor variance. So Lindsay, can I have you introduce this, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is an application for minor variance, file number D13-030-2020 at 809 Development Drive. I'm the planner assigned to this application, so I will provide a brief presentation on behalf of the city.
Great.
Apologies, Mr. Chair. I'm just having difficulty starting my share screen. If you can just give me one moment to get it up and running, please.
No problems. You're in good company and I know where you're at. So just take your time and it will all come through.
All right. So, like I said, 809 Development Drive. Looks like we're all looking at the correct screen now. The purpose and effect of this application is to increase the maximum front deck height and to reduce the minimum length of accessible parking spaces. Next slide, please. Here is the key map and the neighborhood context map from the report exhibits for reference. Next slide, please. The first variance is to section 15.3 RR6. This is the site-specific zone provisions as amended in 2019. The maximum permitted height of the front deck is 1.2 meters, and the applicant has proposed a height of 1.6 meters. The second variance is to reduce the length of the accessible parking spaces from 6 meters to 5.2 meters. Next slide, please. So the areas subject to the variances are highlighted in yellow on this site plan. You can see the 3 front decks at the top of the drawing, and the 2 accessible parking spaces are marked to the south. Next slide, please. This is the north and east elevations for the proposed building. The front decks are again highlighted in yellow. The north elevation is the front of the building that would face onto Development Drive. Next slide, please. This is a brief summary of public notice and consultation. A letter was mailed, signage was posted, and a courtesy ad was placed in the newspaper. No public comments have been received to date for this application. Next slide, please. So this application may seem familiar to you because it was earlier this year, there was an application for consent regarding access and stormwater easements between 809 and 847 Development Drive that was bumped up to this committee for approval. There has also been a zoning amendment and a delegated severance application in 2019. I will note that there is a section of the Planning Act that prohibits an applicant from submitting a minor variance application for a site that's received a zoning bylaw amendment within the 2 years of the passing of the amending bylaw. The amending bylaw in this case was passed in December 2019. which puts it within this 2-year window. Council approval was received on October 6th of this year to exempt this minor variance application from that section of the Planning Act. So a minor variance may now be granted by the committee in accordance with the Planning Act. There's also an active site plan application for the townhouse development at this site. Next slide, please. This application is being recommended for approval. I leave this in your hands, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you very much. I'd now like to call for the applicant or their agent to identify themselves by name and address for the record, please.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mark Tao. I'm a planner with IBI Group. So we are the owner's planning agent.
Okay, great. Is there anything further you want to add to the application we have before us this evening?
I think that we're still working on getting site plan approvals. And so the variances being sought are worst case scenarios. So we may in fact be able to accommodate a deck, a front porch that's lower and an accessible parking space that is closer to, if not meeting the actual requirement. But there's some grading issues and some site layout issues that prompted the application. And so we are seeking the variances, but we hope that we may not need to use them or even use them to the full extent.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. So I'll turn this over now to the committee. Committee members, do you have any questions of either the applicant or their agent? I guess in this case, the agent. And I'm not seeing any. So I'll open. Oh, yeah. Blaine, did you have a? Oh, just, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just give me a sec. Real quick question. If so, we approve a variance and they don't need it, does this revert back to not requiring what to staff? Like if we approve something and then they don't need it, does it revert back? Can somebody tell me that? Or am I making sense?
I understand it. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if a variance is approved but not required, it would still be permitted to be built as to the approved drawings, but it also could be built in accordance with the zoning bylaw. So they could revert back to the original provisions.
Okay, and just a quick question. The reasoning for the changes again from IBI Group was grading conditions and layout, is that correct?
Yeah, good question through you, Mr. Chair. When we first filed the applications, we had proposed to bring the grade around the building to be lower so that the windows in the basement could receive more light, essentially. Since filing the applications, we've had to bring the grade up a bit to deal with some building code requirements around building height in relation to grade. So for the sake of the front porch elevation as it's measured in the zoning bylaw, that's why we may not need that variance any longer, because the grade has been required to be adjusted back up, essentially higher up, which would bring the porch height down in relation to the grade. Yeah. So that's still something being sorted out through the active site plan application and building application. And then for the rear accessible parking spaces, it's actually somewhat related in that the deck at the rear of the building has to be a certain height in relation to the grade. And if the deck is higher, we need more stairs to get down, which pushes the deck and pushes the stairs further into the parking lot, which forces the parking space to be a bit lower. But again, same thing, if the grade ends up being a bit higher, there's less stairs and therefore the parking space can be larger. So.
Okay.
Great,
good.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee to Mr. Tao? Okay, so I'll now open the public portion of the meeting. Are any members of the public here this evening that wish to speak to the application for 809 Development Drive? Please raise your virtual hand. I'm not seeing any. James, do you know if we have any members of the public registered for this application?
I'm not certain, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
There are 3 members public, or sorry,
Sure.
3 members of the public present. I
Yep.
believe the majority of the members of the public were here for the first item that was withdrawn. So
Okay.
the fact that no one is jumping doesn't surprise me.
Okay. All right. So I'll close the public portion of the meeting and now come back to the committee for a decision, a motion. So can I have somebody move? Okay, Paul. Okay, so moved by Paul and then seconded by Blaine. Any discussion on this? No. So all in favor, raise your hands, and that's unanimously carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Okay, so the next item we have on the agenda is item number 8C, which is an application for minor variance. And Lindsay, can I ask you to read this in, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is an application for minor variance at 783 Portsmouth Avenue. The file number is D13042-2020, and Phil Prell is the planner assigned to this application.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Philip Prell, and I'm going to be walking you through this application for minor variance today for 783 Portsmouth Ave. Next slide, please. So this applicant is proposing to legalize an existing deck, which there will be pictures a bit later, that has an average height between 0.6 and 1.2 meters from finished grade. And this requires recognizing the deck's 0 meter setback from the side lot line to the north, where a 1.2 meter setback would typically be required. Next slide. So this is the key map of the area here. A couple quick points to run down. This is in the official plan designates this as a residential area. It's abutting residential properties to the north and south, and a multifamily residential designation to the right, or I guess in this case it'd be to the east. It fronts onto Portsmouth Ave, which is a collector road, and it's 250 meters from Princess Street, which is located to the north, right near that big intersection down the hill. And that hill is important because the site topography feeds into this variance. So the property is located on a hill, which slopes from high to low ground, from east to west, as well as from south to north. And you're going to see what I mean a little bit when we get to the site pictures. Next slide, please. Okay, so as we can see, taking first a look at the picture on the bottom right here, the area that has a big red rectangle, that's the area that's currently not in compliance that we're trying to legalize through this variance. As you can see above the picture, this would be basically putting into words what I just mentioned before, where it's currently at the 0 lot line, but it should be at the 1.2 meter lot line. And so what we've decided to do in this case is we're trying to improve the existing situation by having the applicant put in a screen. And we've added this as one of the, to screen the property from view into the other person's property. And we've added this to our recommended approvals, our recommended conditions of approval, which will need to be factored in at the building permit stage, which would happen after the minor variance was approved, if it should be approved. So with this in mind, the deck right now is not in compliance, but it's going to be, once it's approved, it will be not only legalized, but it will improve the overall situation by adding a screen, which will benefit the people, the residents at 783 Portsmouth and 789 Portsmouth, which is to the south of this property. Next slide. So as we can see in these site pictures, if you look at number 1 and 2, the little area with the measuring tape gives you an idea of what's quote unquote not in compliance currently. If you're looking at number 3, that's a view of actually from 789 Portsmouth looking up. As you can see, it's situated on a hill. So normally there's going to be overlook concerns anyways, regardless of where the deck would be placed. And you can see this in number 4. Number 4 was taken at a site visit where I attended, and I stood behind where the measuring tape was, and I was able to still clearly look into the other person's rear yard. So regardless if this deck was built to standard or not before, there would still be this intrusive overlook potential, just based on the area's topography. Next slide, please. So what I'm basically doing is I'm recommending, if possible, approval for this application, because they're going to be taking a deck that currently has some overlook concerns and would have had overlook concerns even if it was compliant with the bylaw. And they're trying to improve this by adding a screen in this form of a lattice. And so what effectively they would be doing is improving it for all future residents and the people to the north of the property. And if you look under If you look under condition number 3, you'll see some of the language that we use is pretty firm, saying that they have to get a deck, they have to get a building permit to legalize the deck. It has to be up to building code standards, and there has to be a screen. And so this is the kind of thing that, despite us approving this, we believe that there are enough controls in place to improve the situation long-term without forcing the applicant to have to tear down their deck, even though they were a recent homeowner and didn't know it was illegal at the time, and to maintain it, preserve it, and improve the situation for everybody involved. And with that, I will leave this in your hands.
Great, thank you very much. All right, so can I have the applicant or their agent identify themselves by name and or address for the record, please?
Hi there, it's Cassie Sullivan at 783 Portsmouth Avenue. I am the owner.
Okay, thanks very much. Nice to have you here. Is there anything further you want to add to the application we have before us this evening?
No, just that we purchased my boyfriend and I purchased the home on May 27th. It closed. We weren't aware that the deck was illegal, and the deck was built 2 owners ago, and the guy that we bought it from was not aware either. We were planning on doing a privacy fence anyways next summer, but we're more than welcome to do it right now if needed.
Okay.
But yeah.
Good. Okay, thanks very much for that.
Oh, sorry.
So I'll now,
one more thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also had a structural engineer come out and sign off on it. I don't know if Philip uploaded that or not.
Yeah.
But Eric Trout did sign off on it, so that should be good too. So I appreciate your decision.
Yes, we have that on file too. So thanks very much.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'll turn this over to members of the committee. Do you have any questions for the applicant or the planner? I'm seeing none. So now I'll open the public portion of the meeting. Are any members of the public here this evening to speak to the application for 783 Portsmouth Avenue? Please raise your virtual hand in Zoom. So the application is 783 Portsmouth Avenue. If there are any members of the public that wish to speak to this, raise your hand. And I'm not seeing anybody. So I'll close the public portion of the meeting and come back to the committee for a motion. Okay, so moved by Mr. Fudge and seconded by Vincent. And any discussion on this? No, so all in favor, raise your hands. And that would be unanimously carried. So thanks very much, Mrs. Sullivan. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so that's it for our new business. And now we'll go on to our agenda. There, we don't have any motions or notices of motion. There's no other business. We don't have any delegated authority applications in, oh, I'm sorry, have you reviewed the delegated authority applications in progress? We all get those regularly. Do you have any questions or comments about them? No, I see none. Okay, so the date of the next meeting is scheduled for December 14th. So that's, I guess, 4 weeks from now. I think everybody's good on that. So now we just need a motion to adjourn at 5:59 p.m. So moved by Paul and seconded by Blaine. All in favor, raise your hands. That's unanimously carried. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month.